watching Open Chat on TBN, and tonight we're looking at youth participation in politics. And my guests for tonight are National Restoration Party Youth League President Mr. Wilson Banda, and Forum for Democracy and Development FDD spokesperson Mr. Antonio Mwanza. Welcome to the program, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
And not youth president, but chairman.
Chairman, okay. To take part in this program, you can simply call us on 0963 794811. That is 0963 794811. And just a disclaimer, as TBN, as I always say, that the views expressed on this program are not the views of TBN, but those of the guests and the callers that call in to the program. To start with, I'll start with you, Mr. Mwanza. We are looking at youth participation in politics. How is youth participation here in Zambia in terms of participating in politics?
Thank you so very much, and good evening once more, and good evening to our viewers. I think when we talk about youth participation in Zambia, we have to take it from the concept of our historical engagement as young people from the time that we, pre-independence era, started participating in politics. I think prior to 1964, before Zambia got independence, the majority of the people that stood for Cha-Cha-Cha and the people that stood and protested and stood up and fought for this independence, the majority of them were young people. And even when the government was formed, President Kayombo himself was at the age of 40 years, and the majority of his ministers, if you look at the average age, was around 29, 27 years of age. So the first cabinet that we had was made up of young people. The people that fought for this independence were young people, and the young people today have continued to participate in politics. The difference now is in what category, what role are young people today playing. We know that pre-independence and after independence, the young people did not only fight for independence, but they also took the realms of power. They became ministers, they became permanent secretaries, they became diplomats, and so on. And one of the best examples that we do have is the example of Honorable B.J. Mwanga, who became a public officer in the diplomatic circles at the age of 17 years. And we know that, for instance, former President Rupia Banda was an ambassador at 25 years of age. So we know that young people did not only fight for independence, but they also took up leadership roles, either in parastatals, in government, and in all other platforms. But as the years went on to date, what has happened is that the same generation that fought for independence in 1964 has held on to power up to date. And the young people today have been reduced to simply slogan chanting, violence, and filling up the election gap. Young people today, the majority of us, are only voters. Out of the House of 150 elected members of Parliament, there are less than 4 people that are below the age of 35. As we are speaking right now, there are less than 3 people that are below the age of 35. Despite the fact that the majority voters are young, the people that are now running the government in terms of the legislature, in terms of the executive, are old people. If you look at our cabinet, for instance, we do not even have a single young person in the current PF cabinet. So the role of young people today has changed. From being leaders, it has now changed into merely participating in voting, participating in slogan chanting, participating in the grassroots mobilization. But it is also important to note, before I end, that if you look at the people that are driving the economy of this country, it's the young people. If you go to our clinics, the majority of those people are young. In this studio where we are, we're all young people. The people behind the cameras are all young. The older generation is not here. Starting from the one who was opening the gates for us, we are all youths. So youths have taken the role of doing the donkey work. But when it comes to decision-making positions in the legislation, in the executive, you do not find young people.
Okay. Mr. Banda, why do you think we have few young people in key decision-making? Like you mentioned, that we have few young people in parliament, few young people in cabinet and other key decision-making positions. What do you think are some of the reasons why there is that situation?
Yeah, just like Comrade Mwanza has said, we have few young people in decision making. Actually, we have none. in decision making today. I'll point out the reason is simple. Like Mr. Mwanza has said, those we see today in decision making are the same people that fought for independence of this country in 1964. Or they first came from Northern Rhodesia. I call them Northern Rhodesians, not Zambians. Because Zambians are those who were born after 1964. Like Mr. Mwanza has said, we had VJ, the youngest minister or ambassador, Bwezani Banda, as ambassador 25 years. But because these people were so selfish that they cannot groom other leaders to take over from them, and they became so selfish, and they are selfish, so their selfishness is now causing us, the youths, to be used as tools of violence. And as youths, I think we are saying, let's get involved, let's participate, let's not leave to few individuals, youths, to participate, because the more we leave it to Antonio here or Wilson Banda, is the more they take advantage of us. We are the majority voters. I'm sure we are now 80%. We put them into power, they forget about us. Tomorrow they come, when they want to be voted in, they buy us shake. And you know, the reason why youths are not participating in politics is even the playing field of this democracy, with calling democracy, is not level. Most of us are scared. If I go to Kadingalinga today to do mobilization of my party, maybe someone will come with a panga and attack me. So what's the point of participating in politics? They would rather sit home and watch from the terraces. Thank you.
Okay. Now, Mr. Mwanza, you mentioned that youth are being used as tools for violence during election, and you also said that they are being used as slogan chanters. Also. Now, how can you ensure that young people during elections are not used as tools for violence, but they should ensure that they put in people who are credible and people can put the interest of young people at heart, those who can push the agenda for young people? How can we ensure that young people are not involved in violence?
I think I want to pick it up from where Comrade Banda left. First of all, the young people today have to realize nobody is going to take them away from the bottom of the ladder to the top of the ladder. We, as young people, ourselves have to get involved. Power does not sit, and nobody is going to give any young person in this country power. That should be very clear to all of us as young people. If we want to change the way things are done in this country, we ourselves have to take it upon ourselves as our only moral and sacred duty to get involved. Now, we also have to deal with the key issues that are making young people not to participate effectively. One of the things, for instance, is that there is no succession of leadership. If you look at the political parties that we do have here, the only political parties that have come from the mass movement, we can talk about UNIP in 1964, it was a coalition of the willing. Zambians from all walks of life wanting one thing, a common agenda to attain independence. If you look at MMD, it was the same thing. It was the general movement of common Zambians wanting to attain one thing, that was multi-party democracy. FDD was as a result of the people of Zambia standing up against a third term, and then they were a breakaway, and they formed the political party. Now, the majority of the political parties that we do have are coming from one person. So one person starts a political party. And when he starts that, it is his personal order. And everybody else who joins that political party has to simply coronate or help him to move to the presidency. So to begin with, in our political parties, we do not have intra-party democracy. And number two, if you do not have money, like you were saying, it's very costly to run an election. And many of our young people are disadvantaged in terms of finances. So if you do not have money, you cannot successfully bid or run for an election. If it comes to adoptions, young people are not adopted because, one, they do not have money, even to bribe the leadership within the political party to be adopted. Because the political parties where we go, they will tell you how much money are you putting on the table if you want us to adopt you as a member of parliament. How much money are you putting to the presidential campaign if you want us to adopt you as a member of parliament? Then also you look at the nature of politics. Politics and church, these are the two things where you can easily get rich. So politics by nature in Zambia and in Africa has become very, very lucrative. So those that hold on to power, they want Wamuyaya because they know they have got free everything from education, health, education, everything is paid for by the taxpayers. And because of that, nobody wants to cede power and say, I have done my part and let me go. So these things coupled with the fact of intimidation. I'm a classical example of what intimidation can do. For a course that takes 4 years to complete at the University of Zambia, I spent over 7 years to complete a course because I simply stood for the people, my constituents, which was the students at the University of Zambia, and I got the wrath of government. I was expelled from the university, I had my tooth broken, I went through the most depressing activities you can ever go to. It's treatment that you can subjected to, where even when they see you with Comrade Banda here, he becomes a target. So our politics is full of vengeance, it's full of vindictiveness. So many young people do not want to participate in politics at that high level because they are scared. You look, today our civil servants are told, if we come here and we find that you are working with the opposition, you are gone. Everywhere you go, there is intimidation. So many young people are intimidated. They are scared of losing jobs, they are scared of losing businesses, they are scared of losing their education. A lot of young people have been expelled from colleges just because they have stood up against government injustice. So these are some of the things that make young people to continue being in the peripheral. But one of the things that make young people to end up in violence is poverty and ignorance. If you look at the young people that are involved in violence, it is not young people like him, like me. No, because we have been privileged to go to universities, to go to colleges. We have a life. We understand our rights. And we know our role. So we cannot be used in violence. But what politicians do, and this violence is coming from us politicians, they pay up young people that they find vulnerable. And it's very easy. Right now as we are speaking in the studio, it's so easy for somebody just to go in Garingaringa. And they'll find young people drinking chihuku, shake, junta. And the only thing they do is that there are two young men who are on TV right now, and they're speaking ill of the government. So let us go. They will not even know who these young men are. They'll put them in a bus, give them a 10 kwacha, a 5 kwacha, and these guys will come here. Immediately we leave this studio, will be beaten. So they're taking advantage of the poverty and ignorance of the majority young people to continue using them as tools of violence. They cannot use young people like me, like Comrade Wilson Banda, in violence because we know what our role is, we know what our rights is. So if we do not fight poverty, if we do not fight ignorance, we will not fight political violence.
Mr. Banda,
yes.
You've been an urgent campaigner in the demand for the release of the Constitution. And based on what he said, we have a number of youths in this country who are not doing anything. And so what role can young people play to demand for the immediate release of the final draft Constitution before the 2016 general election?
Yeah. Difficult. I would say difficult question. We together with Mr. Mwanza, we've been, as parties, we've been advocating for a new constitution, yes, and we want the new constitution. The reason why we want the new constitution is because we need to have equal share of the nation's cake. The government is reluctant on giving the constitution because there are clauses that when they actually give us this constitution, it is going to be suicide to them. We know that. But I think as young people, let's rise together. I don't know how we are going to do it. Maybe if the government is too reluctant, maybe we can give them the Egypt way for them to give us the constitution. If we can't do that, let's go the blueprint way. If political parties can come together and buy into the idea of President Chipimo's blueprint idea, I think selfless leaders who want to save this nation should look at that document carefully, study it carefully, and if they've got questions, let them ask us. I think we mean well in that document. And that is if we have to avoid bloodshed on the release of the Constitution, that is the only way to go. But honking is not going to do us any good. I think we've been honking, I don't know, from 19 what or 2000 and what. We've been honking and nothing has happened. If you look at the government that has come and go, it's different. They are different from this government. Kaunda had a listening ear. Chiruba was a bit stubborn, but he was listening to people. But I can assure you now that the presidency or the government that we have in power today is not a listening government like they have stated, or they stated when they were campaigning, that they are a pro-poor government. That is not true, because if they were listening government, they lied to us that they are going to give us a constitution in 90 days, which they haven't done. So honking is not going to make them listen. We only have two options: the blueprint, or like I remember Comrade Kwanza when we had a coalition meeting at Golden Bridge. He stated the only way is for us to go on the street there to demand for this, or march to State House. But you know what it is in this country: marching to State House, you meet the wrath of the police. Others will die. Others will be injured. More will be arrested. If we are ready to die for this mother country, Zambia, for our children to find a better Zambia, let's go ahead and do that. But if we are not ready to do that, then let's unite, look at President Chipimo's idea of the blueprint, and let's stop being selfish. Because we know other people are scared. They think, oh, maybe he wants to be the president. No, he didn't state that. But it's for the common goal of the common. It's a goal for a common Zambia. Let's work around that. Let's work together, because we all know that divided we fall, united we stand. We all know that Sata and his government is not going. They are not going to release the constitution, because the moment they will do that, it's suicide to them. Remember, there's a running mate there. There's 50 plus 1. So those two critical issues, they are not going to do that.
Now, Mr. Mwanza, suppose they gave us the constitution tomorrow or just tonight. Will it alleviate the suffering of many people in this country?
First of all, is that the problem that we have is that the issue of the constitution has been trivialized. And there's a lot of ignorance about what the role of the constitution is. It is extremely important to understand that the constitution is like the Bible. A Christianity without the Bible is not Christianity. Islam without the Quran is not Islam. And even from the creation of this universe, God is an orderly God. And everything that he does, there are rules, regulations that everybody has to follow. And you can imagine, even from the Garden of Eden, where there were only two people, Adam and Eve, God still put his law and said, do not go to this tree and do not eat from this tree. So from the beginning of times, God saw it important to have rules that govern our existence. And the Constitution is that document that provides the rules and laws that govern our country as a sovereign state, and how we should govern ourselves, what powers we should have, and how we should treat one another. So, as a beginner, we all have to agree and understand that the Constitution is the fundamental law of the land. Some don't know what the Constitution is, or the Constitution, unless you find yourself in a predicament where you are arrested without trial, you are arrested without charge, and you might not understand the importance of the Constitution unless you find yourself in the foot where our children are finding themselves in the ghetto, where they go to school without books, and they have to leave home walking to and from school. Now, it is important to note what the law of the Constitution is. The Constitution will govern the social, economic, and political development of this nation. It spells out, currently the Constitution that we do have, it is a privilege to go to school. It is a privilege to have health facilities. But the constitution that we are fighting for is a constitution that will guarantee right to food, right to fundamental. These are fundamental rights. These are human. And each and the road, me too, should be entitled to health facilities. And this constitution will guarantee those. Now, also, it is important. Today we are talking about the constitution because we've got a government that you cannot check in. Immediately somebody goes into State House, or goes into Parliament, or goes into the council, you have no ways to hold, to account your elected leaders. Because the constitution does not give us as ordinary citizens the room, the freedom, and ways in which we can hold our elected leaders to account. And he can tell us back and say, you are young. Because it's untouchable. So the constitution we are fighting for is a constitution that will guarantee that those that we put in power are checked by those that put them in office. It is extremely important that no man should be given the overall powers. This constitution we've been fighting for is a constitution that will transfer power from men into institutions, so that the judiciary, the legislature, the Electoral Commission of Zambia, and all these other government institutions can act impartially, professionally, and independently, so that you and me can have equal access to the law. You and me can have equal access to resources, that you and me can stand up and hold our elected leaders to account. So it is very important. I know that the PF, for instance, have tried to trivialize the issue of the constitution. After saying, what do you need, a piece of paper or minimum? Do we know and understand why today Honorable Chikwanda can wake up every week, every month? Honorable Chikwanda is contracting loans on behalf of the people of Zambia. And the people that are going to pay for those loans are ordinary people, you and me, and my brothers and sisters in Kalingalinga and so on. We have no say on which loan to contract, what we are going to use these loans for. And we do not even know how these loans are being used. Right now, as we are speaking here in this studio, President Michael Sata has taken the Road Development Agency into State House and is keeping it. And remember, the Road Development Agency gobbles 10% of the national budget. 10% of the entire national budget was the money that was given to the RDA. And that was RDA which operated for 1 year, 2 months without a board. There was only one man, Mr. William Sanda and Mr. Sata, deciding on their own what contracts to give, who to give contracts, and how do you ensure that you fight corruption when you have laws that are weak. So we need a constitution that does not only guarantee our rights, but a constitution also that guarantees that those that are in leadership are held to account. And a constitution that guarantees that those that have been found wanting, either through embezzlement, either through misappropriation of public funds, can face the wrath of the law. Today, the president chooses who should face the law and who shouldn't. When Winter Kabimba and Sylvia Masere were facing the law, they were not fired. They could go in the tribunal in the morning, go to the tribunal in the morning, and in the afternoon they go back in their offices and work as ministers. How do you guarantee that they do not tamper with evidence, that they do not threaten the witnesses, and that they do not influence the decision of the tribunal in the affair? So we need a constitution that does not give power to individuals, but a constitution that gives power to the institutions of government. So it is key. But you know why the government has been dilly-dallying? Because they know and understand that people, they can easily fool people and say, look, this is just a document, you can do away with it. And it is our role now as politicians, as the media, as the church, to continue to put pressure on this government to release the constitution. And if they do not release the draft constitution and constitute a referendum commission, there are consequences. The Don't Whoever now cannot work. It is gone. It's over. The Don't Whoever they did in 2011 cannot work because the people now have realized that they were told more money in your pocket. There is no money. They are coins. They were told minimum prices will be low. The middle prices are up. They were told fuel prices will be low. Fuel prices are up. Zambians are suffering, and there is no more Don't Whoever. I think the youths of this country have opened up, and they are not going to give this government any leeway to have their way. So our advice, for instance, to the PF government, is to look back to the words of Barack Obama. Obama says if leaders can realize that power is temporal, they would have the wisdom to use power with caution. So So let President Michael Sata and the entire PF government realize that power is temporal. They are bosses now, but they will not be bosses after 2016. We had Rupiah Band. We could stand and do whatever I wanted. It's no longer there. We had Kaunda. I was at school when Kaunda was president. And when it's flying in the air, all of us would stand at attention. The plane is flying in the air, and everybody is standing at attention. It was called Wameyaya. Lesa Kumuru, Kaunda Pashi. He's no longer there. He's gone. Nobody holds power forever, including Hitler, including Saddam. They're all gone. So it's up to them whether they want to do what is right or they can remain stubborn. But you know what the Bible says. Pride comes before the fall. And he who is stubborn, surely, they say, there are consequences. So if the PF government wants to be stubborn, there will be consequences. And when they are out of power, you know how it will be? They have set a precedence. They will be moving, for those that are involved in certain crimes, they will be moving from the courts of law to the hospitals to the courts. So they have to choose whether they want to do the right thing or they want to remain stubborn. But they will not be in power forever. They will go, and the people of Zambia shall hold them to account.
You are watching Open Chat on TBN, and tonight we feature NAREP Youth League Chairman, Mr. Wilson Banda, and the FDD spokesperson, Mr. Antonio Mwanza, and we are looking at youth participation in politics. To send your comments or if you want to call, you can call us on 0963 794811. It is 0963 794811. Mr. Banda, last week on Friday, during the media function by the ECZ, they announced that they have written to government to inform them that they want to carry out the limitation exercise to increase the number of constituencies from 150 to 235. How do you look at that proposed by the ECZ?
I think we, as a party and the youths of NAREP, we have issued a statement, maybe not one, on the ECZ issue. And we were also on the radio, and we talked about the same issue. First of all, delimitation, I'll say delimitation is the setting out to establish the limits of boundaries, the limits or boundaries of something. So for us, I think the ECZ's idea of delimitation is a welcome idea, and it should be supported by every well-meaning politician or Zambian. Actually, Zambian, as I've stated, politicians are selfish, and what they want, if they want to work for the people, let them support ECZ's idea. But if they want to fill their pockets like others are doing today, then they will object to this idea. Remember, we have three types of delimitation. We have polling district delimitation, we have ward delimitation, and we have constituency delimitation. In Zambia today, like we've toured, I think Comrade Mwanza will bear me witness, he's been touring the country, and we've toured this country, and we have huge constituencies where these MPs do not even manage to tour their constituencies when voted into power. And you find that there are just certain areas that they manage to tour, and those are the only people that feel like they are represented. The huge chunk of the constituency, they don't even reach there. For example, we were on the Copper Belt with the president, President Chipimo. We were in part of Rufwanyama that people have never seen either the president or their so-called parliamentary representative. That is very unfortunate. If ECZ saw to it that this is an idea that will bring even development closer to people, let's support them, and that is a welcome idea. Remember, in 1991 we had 125 constituencies. Then after delimitation, we came to 150. And in 1991, the population of this nation was about 8-9 million. but today we are 14 plus million. It is important that ECZ idea should be supported, and let's support ECZ. Let them divide these constituencies, and also I'll go back a little bit. President Sata, I think we are all aware that he's created 30 more districts. So you'll find that in those 30 more districts he's created, some has got no constituencies. I'll give the example of Kapiri. Kapiri was one constituency district. That means it is a constituency. It's one constituency in that district. Now, President Sata created the Ngambwe, so, which means Kapiri will have an opportunity to have an MP, and in Ngambwe, if ECZ don't do that, in Ngambwe will have no MP. So if we are really there for the people, I think ECZ mean well. We know there are questions that will arise from this delimitation, but remember, democracy is not cheap. So if we are ready for democracy, let's be ready for the costs or consequences of the democracy. So delimitation by ECZ, we are saying, go ahead. If government is a listening government, let them allow ECZ to do delimitation, and let's have the 235 MPs or constituencies they want us to have.
Mr. Mans, what is FDD's position?
Well,
and what does this mean to the country in terms of having all parts of the constituencies are developed? Like you mentioned that there are some areas which are very, like Wanyama,
exactly.
Pambash and other constituencies. So what is your party's position, as well as what this will mean to the people in this country that may not understand this whole process?
Well, first of all, I'd like to put on record that delimitation, as it has already been spelled out, is simply the setting up of new boundaries. For instance, you've got Munari constituency, and because of various reasons, one of them being that one population, two, the terrain of the constituency, the Electoral Commission of Zambia has been given powers under the Constitution to delimit. In other words, to divide these constituencies and make them a bit more smaller. Now, the Forum for Democracy and Development, FDD's position is that we totally support the proposal by the ECZ to delimit these constituencies further from 150 to 235. Now, that is not only ECZ proposal. As political parties, we were participating in the constitution-making process. And as political parties, we submitted to the technical committee that we needed to change the number of constituencies from 150 to 235 for the simple basic reasons that, number one, especially for the rural constituencies, these are vast constituencies where members of parliament do not have the time nor the resources to reach out to the people in all the corners of the constituencies, listen to their voices, and also inform the people about what is going on in the House. And also to listen to the views of the people and represent the people effectively in Parliament. Number two, we have terrains where you can't even go with a vehicle because there are no roads, there are no bridges, and so forth. And it is extremely difficult for members of Parliament to reach out to all these corners of their constituencies. So for these reasons, members of the political parties, through the technical committee that was drafting the new constitution, we submitted that it was important to further delimit Zambia from 150 constituencies to 235 constituencies. Now, it is also important to understand the role of a member of parliament. Because people have argued, when members of parliament are campaigning, they tell you, we are going to build a school, we are going to build a hospital, I'm going to do this for you. And when they win, the member of parliament comes back with a different story and tells us that it is not his job to bring development. Today I want to put it very clear. It is the job of a member of parliament to bring development. That is his job. The description of a member of parliament is very simple. Number one, he's a legislature. He has to make laws in the House. And those laws include social, political, and economic laws. The member of parliament debates the budget. The member of parliament approves the budget. And the Member of Parliament has to debate to ensure that the budget lines are followed. It is his job to go to Parliament and debate that we propose to have a school in Kalingalinga, there is no school, and he has to take the government to task. It is his job to go back to Kalingalinga and check if there are drainages. And if those drainages are not there, he has got a right and a job to go back to Parliament and lobby and fight and talk and represent the people until the road is taken back to Kalingalinga. That is the job of a Member of Parliament. So it is supposed to be understood that a Member of Parliament has a job to bring development, because he debates what is the development agenda for the people of his constituents in Parliament. And he debates on the budget. Now, we as FDD have also further submitted to the National Assembly. We have submitted in writing to Parliament, that we have realized that members of Parliament do not have the time nor the resources to frequently visit their constituencies. And we have seen that most of the times the members of Parliament get to Parliament, that is the end. You can't see him again. But what other jurisdictions have done, Kenya, South Africa, America, UK, is that there is a budget for the members of Parliament. That is the reason why every constituency has got a National Assembly constituency office. And that office is an office where a member of Parliament is supposed to go back, meet the people, talk to the people, have meetings, and listen to the concerns of the people. That is the job of a Member of Parliament. So we propose to Parliament that what they're supposed to do is to provide the budgetary allocation for members of Parliament to have periodical visitations by law. They need to pass a legislation so that members of Parliament can be visiting their constituencies and listen to the people. So now members of Parliament will need funding to travel, have meetings, and meet their people. It also means that the National Assembly offices, which we have locally, should be properly equipped so they can have space, they can have libraries, they can have conference rooms where community leaders, where development committee leaders can be meeting with their members of Parliament and raise these issues. There is an issue of the cost of delimitation. We have to make a choice as a nation. Whether we have to say, let our people continue being underrepresented and remain poor because we are scared to increase the number of members of Parliament. But if we have to be honest with ourselves, we have to face reality. There is no single Zambian who does not deserve adequate and effective representation in the House. It is therefore prudent that we do allow the Electoral Commission of Zambia to go ahead and delimit. Now, there are constitutional issues. The Constitution of Zambia states that there shall be 150 constituencies. Unless you change that part of the Constitution, Electoral Commission of Zambia cannot go ahead and delimit. Now, we do not have a new Constitution. And it is now clear that we will not have a new Constitution unless we use other methods. The PF will not give us a Constitution. We need to squeeze it out from their hands. With that dilemma on our hands, it is now incumbent upon members of Parliament, and this is what our proposal was as FDD, that one of the things that we want our members of Parliament to do and to look at in this session that I've opened is the issue of delimitation. Members of Parliament can propose and can move in a motion in Parliament so that the part of the Constitution which states that there shall be 150 constituencies should be changed to state that there will be 255 constituencies, so that we can change enough delimitation even before the new Constitution is put in place. But to end, I would also want to put it that even without delimitation, we proposed a mixed member representation. And that automatically will mean that whether we delimit or we do not delimit Zambia, the time that we're going to have a new constitution, we will have the number of members of Parliament to 235. And people have to know that the ECZ did a thorough research, and there were symposiums throughout the country for them to come up with this. And as political parties, we have supported this. Now it is the role of members of Parliament to use this opportunity, which they have in the session, in the House, to bring up the issue of delimitation and change the clause in the Constitution to allow for ECZ to go ahead and delimit, so that we can have proper and effective representation. Members of Parliament have a very, very big job to do. And this issue of running away to say, no, it is not a member of Parliament bringing hospitals and schools, that is a lie. It is his job to debate. It is his job to fight for his people in the House, and also to fight for them outside by lobbying to interested parties.
Mr. Banda, your addition, as well as your advice to some stakeholders who have raised concerns and exercised by.
Yeah, we've heard, or we've seen, we've read some opposition parties as well, including I think the PF itself, saying they don't support this delimitation exercise by ECZ. The question I'll ask, especially those political parties, we are even in the same, what do you call that?
The same
cocoon. The coalition which is fighting for the release of the constitution. I'll ask them one question. If really they are honest with each other, they should tell the Zambian people, are they really fighting for the new constitution or not? Because we've seen them, they've stated that they don't support this. To me, they are telling me that if they don't support delimitation exercise by ECZ today, it means they also do not want the constitution. Because that constitution, like Mr. Mwanza stated, I think he was privileged, he was part of the team with our national secretary, who were actually drafting that constitution. They were in those committees. And that constitution that we are fighting for talks about, the 250 members of parliament. So if political parties are sincere to themselves, they will come out to support ECZ. But if they are lying to Zambians, like PF lied to Zambians, that they are going to do this in 90 days, and they are in the same boot of lying to Zambians and showing their face to say they are fighting for this for us. Then behind the corner they are saying, no, this is not good. The ECZ idea is not good. Then they are not different from the government today. The government we have today. Because if really they are sincere to themselves, they will support this 235 proposal by ECZ, because they were part and parcel of that constitution-making process, which drafted the draft constitution, which the public hasn't seen. And let them come out and tell me, or tell the Zambian people to say, we are not supporting this, or we want the new constitution. When you give us the new constitution, as political parties, when we are in power, we remove some of these clauses. Because you can't support something and you don't like the clauses, other clauses in it. You want the constitution, but you don't support the other clauses in the constitution. It doesn't make sense. It's as good as saying, I don't eat chicken, but I can eat soup of the chicken. That's what they are telling us. So, if they are sincere to themselves, let them come out in open, and let actually those who have written, they should even tell their MPs in parliament, let them support the ECZ delimitation. The moment they vote against this in parliament, then we all know, Zambians will know. Now, you know, we used it to be like this, now we are like that. Huh? Zambians will know these are as good as the other ones in the State House. And the Zambians are watching. So let them do what is right. If they think this is right, if they think they are supporting, they should support this, or they are there to save the interest of the people. But if they are there to save their pockets, we know them, and we know them. So if let them come out and support this. If they are sincere to themselves, ECZ idea is a welcome idea, and every well-meaning Zambian should support it.
Okay, I've got I think 2 SMSs here. This one is saying Rangos in PF is a sign that God is not happy with them for failing us. I think Don't Kuwewa will turn around them in 2016. I really need to join politics, but I have no chance. Would you please consider me? Moses Kapema from Kabanana. And then the other one just saying you are a great chairman because the things which you are explaining They are very beneficial to Mother Zambia from Yona to Saka.
Thank you.
Yeah. If you
So
want to
they-
send
they-
your SMSs, you can use 0963 794811. He mentioned that the language that are in PF now is because that God is not happy with them for failing to fulfill their promises. For sure.
Well, I want to pick it from what Mr. Sata himself used to say. And he would say that lesa ngalefaya ukupanisha umuntu atampa fiesti achitashani amfurunganya. I think that is a common phrase President Michael Sata used to use. And there was a time that President Sata stood in church, and at the pulpit, which is the holy place, he declared that he will run this country using the 10 Commandments. But today, it's very different. It is clear to us that the president is not running this country on the basis of 10 Commandments. Because the 10 Commandments say, you shall love your neighbor as you love yourself. The 10 Commandments say, you shall not lie. And if you tell the people of Zambia you're going to give them a constitution in 90 days, and after 2 years you tell them that it is not even important to have a constitution because you already have one, and that the money and the time that we have spent was a sheer waste of time, and even that when we are going to these national conventions and sitting there and spending hours and hours of making contributions and research, it was all don't square. I think Zambia, God is not happy with that. And there are a lot of things that the PF government has returned on. And it is clear that from the beginning, the tragedy that has befallen the PF is very simple. One, they never had a program for this country. They had no program. This is the reason why, from the time that they went into office, the first thing they did, they passed the first budget. The second budget, we had a huge deficit of 8.6% of the GDP against the projected 6% because of uncontrolled expenditure, because of unplanned expenditure, and because of sheer government waste. They had no plan. They removed the subsidies. Meanwhile, they say they want to run a pro-poor government, but they remove the subsidies on fuel and on maize. They make fertilizer more expensive. They make fuel more expensive. They make food more expensive. They make housing more expensive. They make transport more expensive. But meanwhile, they're saying they want to save the poor because they do not have a plan. So they come up with statutory instrument 33, statutory instrument 55 without research. And after 3 months, it backfires. They remove it. They have been going up and down. They have been going tit-tat. They are just in a merry-go-round because this is a government that has got no program for the people of Zambia and they have got no vision whatsoever. They do not have any policy, even on agriculture. Look at what they have done. The cost of producing a 50 kg bag of maize has moved. During a rupiah band, it was 48 kwacha to produce a 50 kg bag of maize, of meal. Today, 70 kwacha. And they have given farmers a 70 kwacha floor price, simply meaning that they have not taken into consideration the inflation rates. They have not taken into consideration the falling value of the kwacha. They have not taken into consideration the rising cost of transport, electricity, storage. They have not taken into consideration all these factors which has made the cost of producing a 50 kg bag of maize go up. And recently, 17 days ago, the Minister of Agriculture announced a policy pronouncement that they will start buying maize on the 2nd of July. Today is the 10th of July. The government has again U-turned and said they will not start buying maize because the moisture content in the maize is too high. You can see clearly that they can't even be honest enough to say they do not have money to start purchasing maize. It is simple. They have no money to buy maize. But they don't want to be honest enough. So they give the policy today, and tomorrow they revoke that same policy. So they have been going forward and backwards because simply as PF they do not have a plan. And the biggest disservice President Sata has ever done to himself was one, to surround himself with men and women that do not add value to his vision. I think the president has come out very clearly himself, not only on one occasion, but several occasions, that his cabinet ministers are useless, that his members of parliament are useless. The question we've asked consistent as the FDD is, if your members of cabinet, your ministers are useless, why are you not firing them and appoint useful ministers that can help you with your vision and help the people of Zambia? Two, the president, if you look at his appointments, he has appointed people on the basis of regionalism, tribe, no other, Narinao, during elections. You cannot appoint people on the basis of friendship, on the basis of tribe, or on the basis of because he's your relative. If you look at the constitution of Zambia, it is very clear. The job of a cabinet minister is to formulate policy. That's number one. Number two, to cause the implementation of policy. Now, if you have got a cabinet minister who does not understand what his ministry is all about, if you've got a cabinet minister who does not understand what his ministry is supposed to do, how is he going to form policy? And how is he going to ensure that that policy is implemented? So the president has shot himself in the foot, and he has come out openly to say his members of his cabinet ministers are useless. And one wonders why Mr. Sata is holding on to his useless cabinet ministers. Maybe Mr. Banda, you know why. You can help us.
You know, members say, isabi kubola, itampira kumutwe. So if the fish is rotten, then the head is rotten as well. Because if I say my cabinet or my children in the house are all thieves or they are useless, it means I know where that is coming from. Because for someone to know someone that this one is useless, you should look into yourself first and ask yourself a question. If I get Mr. Kayombo and appoint him Minister of Finance, and I see that is useless, then I leave him there doing his job as a Minister of Finance. It's me who's
Minister of
useless.
Finance.
Then I'm not useful as well, I'm useless. Because, and it is shameful that the president had even the guts to come out in open and tell us, or tell the Zambians that his cabinet and his government is useless. And then, because if your cabinet or your government or your parliament is useless, dissolve it. And let's usher in useful people that can serve the interest of the Zambian people. But he went ahead to appoint how many cabinet ministers?
About 24.
Plus deputy ministers, about 80 something. And then today we are seeing, like Comrade Mwanza have said, the overruns of the party, which has never happened in this country. But it has happened in the 2 years of the Patriotic Front government. And, you know, I remember when I was with Mr. Mwanza in Uganda, there was a definition for Patriotic Front. We were told it stands for poverty forever. And that's what we are seeing. It's all poverty, because the poverty we had 20, 30 years ago was better than we have today. Poverty levels are higher than we had all these years. The movement from out party, we called them names. I think they were a better government, even if they were also selfish. And these are the same people, same selfish people who broke away who messed up the movement from out party democracy. They broke away from that party to make their poverty forever party, which now has turned Zambia into worse situations than we had before.
Okay, we have
I'll give just a second. I'll give you an example. On that road, Greatest Road today, we saw few months ago, there was so much activity. Like, I'll go back to what Mr. Mwanza said on buying of maize. It's as good as on doing that road. That road has been abandoned. The reason is simple. A normal thinking Zambian like me, who drives on that road, Greatest Road, will simply tell you, these guys, the contractor, hasn't been paid. But look, they've messed up that road. If they knew they didn't have money, they should have left that road the way it was. It was actually better than it is now. It has started developing potholes on the roundabouts there. If you are not careful, you hit into there and you overturn. Is that what we want to see in this country? We want a government, we want a government that has got ideas and that has got, before you enter into government, you should have even a shadow cabinet or a shadow plan to say, this is what we are going to do. But just like Comrade Mwanza said, I will tell you the truth today. PF winning 2011 was a dream. They did not think they are going to win the elections. That's why they didn't have a plan in place to say we are going to do this when we enter government. But like the members say, the government we have today is Chimbwino plan. And that's why you find even the dollar keeps going up. The investor has got no confidence in them. So all the investors that were coming in are going back. They are watching from the terraces to see what is going to happen next. Maybe if we change the government in 2016 or any time soon before 2016, the investors will come. Because that is likely we might change government before 2016. Going by the comments in the post, when someone was telling us we should get prepared psychologically for a funeral. So if you have governments like this, even investors' confidence won't be there. They will stay away from your country. You remember, we are a landlocked country. We depend on these people. So if your policies are useless and an investor will run away, your economy will be as useless as it is today.
We have got one more SMS. This one is saying, I would encourage all Zambian, especially my fellow youths, to give one term to each political party that comes to power. From the time I finished school, it's 9 years without work, and the cost of living keeps rising. Let's wake up, people. Come 2016, we are PF, we are ready. This is coming from Pastor Charles Mlenga from Bowling. So just your reaction to this SMS and as well as your closing remarks. You seem to be
running out of time.
Yes.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you so much to those that have taken time to even text. Because as you know, the cost of airtime has also gone up. But that shows you people are very passionate about their country and they spend their limited resources to text this program. Second, I'd like to say thank you so very much to you for giving us FDD an opportunity to be here. And thank you to TBN. And so thank you so very much to Comrade Wilson Banda, who is a very good colleague of mine from my sister party in Arab. The case that the gentleman talks about is not an isolated case. It is a case which is befalling a lot of young people today. To begin with, our curriculum was imposed on us by the British colonial masters. Initially, it was just for a white man, for a black man to know, yes, bwana, or this is tea, yes, sir, the tea, then he brings back. We were trained simply as tools, but not as innovators, not as entrepreneurs, not as initiators of anything. We've been trained simply, even if you go to school, I was very privileged, I went to University of Zambia. It's about reading books that were written for you by some guy who died in 1787. We have got an education system that do not address the current problems that we do have as a nation, and also take recognizance of the opportunities that we have as a state. How, for instance, do we have a curriculum that teaches our children about Hitler and Mussolini, but does not teach our children about Leshina, about Kapwepwe, about Simon Kumbula, or even about our own independence? So we've got an education system that does not respond to the challenges and opportunities of a young nation like ours. So to begin with, as FDD, to begin with, we want to look at the curriculum from primary up to university level and reorient it in such a manner that it promotes innovation, it promotes initiatives, and it promotes entrepreneurship. That is number one. Number two, we need to train our young people to be, if they're innovators and entrepreneurs and they're initiators, then they will not wait for a white-collar job. But also, there is no nation in this world that has improved when its manufacturing and processing industry is down. Zambia had the same GDP with South Korea at independence. Today, Zambia is failing to make toothpicks. South Korea is providing all these cell phones and iPads that we use. Rwanda had gone for war for 25 years. Today, Rwanda has a better per capita income, better infrastructure facilities, and Rwanda can host the Africa Cup right now. Zambia cannot even host the Africa Games. 25 years of war and 50 years of peace, and we have failed to even improve our entrepreneurship skills, to improve our processing and manufacturing base. Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan wiped out completely. The generation moved away. But today, Japan is a first world country. So we have the resources that we fail to use. 50 years down the line, 50 years after independence, we still have Chinese people coming here, failing, God has given us everything. But I don't know, maybe we want Jesus to come and start mining on our behalf and say, look, we have to process these minerals that you do have and add value to these minerals. Maybe we want Jesus to come here. I've always told people, God is not going to create any more copper. God is not creating any more land. We have arable land that we do not use. We've got minerals that we have failed to put up proper tax regime to get more resources from those minerals and develop our nation and move forward as a country. Now, going forward, it will need more young people to be involved in the politics of this country. The young people have to realize you have to choose whether you want to lead or you want to be led. There are no two ways about it. The realities in life is either you lead or you are led. So young people have to choose whether to lead or to be led. And I think the time has come for young people to start supporting one another. And as a political party, we strongly believe in the young people, and you see it in the adoptions that we will make in the coming by-elections, both at parliamentary and at ward level. The majority of the people that FDD is going to adopt are young people, because we believe that young people are not the future leaders, but young people are the leaders of today. So really the onus is up to us. There's no one who's going to change this country. The Chinese have not come here to change this country. They have come here to make money for their own nation, and we can't blame them. We are sleeping, so they are getting everything God has given us, and they are taking it away. My last word is that I just pray that our government, the PF, can be more forthcoming, be more honest, and where they have difficulties to run this nation, surely we are all Zambians. They can come forward and ask for wisdom. There's a lot of talent everywhere. There are a lot of people from NAREP, from FDD, from UNIP, where the president can pick from, appoint them, and help them to run this nation. We can work together as a nation, and we can move. There's no monopoly of wisdom. So we pray that the Patriotic Front will have the wisdom to realize that not only them can run this country, but all of us as Zambians can work together and run this country. Thank you so very much for this opportunity. I really want to appreciate and thank TPN and you and Comrade for being here. It's been wonderful.
Mr. Banda, thank you very much.
Reaction and your closing remarks.
My reaction to that SMS, one-term government, that's what it said.
Yes.
You said this pastor?
Pastor, I think he's from Bowling. Pastor Charles, I think.
Pastor Charles from Bowling.
Charles.
Okay, I think I concur, or I agree with Pastor Charles. Maybe we should try to be giving our governments one term. But before we give them a one term, let's look at their performance first. Because if this government comes in, performs better, why not give them another term? Because they are looking in the interest of the nation or the interest of the people. But if we have governments like a Patriotic Front government, let's give them one term. If anything, let's give them half term. Because when you give them 5 years, they'll mess up this country more than they have messed up this country in the 2 years that they've been in power. I think we all know. We have seen it. We haven't been taught. We have seen it, and we keep seeing it every day. Governments like Patriotic Front, without plan, let's not even give them one term. Let's give them a half term. That's why we want that constitution, so that we should have more power than they have. Because this government, someone wakes up today and tell us, like Comrade Mwanza said, remove of subsidies. Today, the minister stands and says, no, we've removed the subsidies. Tell me which country in the world does not subsidize for its citizens. Not even in developed countries like America, they do subsidize. South Africa, we've seen it, they are paying even those on the street. These unwanted pregnancies or whatever, you have a child, they pay in South Africa. Because of what? Because of a good constitution that the country has put in place. But, you know, South Africa, democracy is very young, younger than ours. Why should we be 50 years back when we can be actually 70 years ahead? Why? The problem is because I think I also put a blame on us, especially the youths, who are the majority voters. We are lied to in order to put in the same recycled leaders. Would like to see a situation where youths should change that mindset. Let them do the don't whatever they did to MMD.
Someone was trying to
let them do the same don't whatever. Get his 50 kwacha, that MP or would be MP that is going to buy you shake. Drink his shake and tell him, I can't go and fight my brother. And when you go into that dock to vote, don't even cross where against his name. Put on someone else, someone that will have your interest. Because mostly people who don't give us something are the people that have got a heart for this nation. But those who lie they have a heart for this nation, they are the ones that come forward to give us 50 kwachas. We should start thinking as youths. If I'm given even 100 kwacha today, I make noise. I become a vuvuzela for this man. Tomorrow is in Parliament. He forgets. Recently, when we had a by-election somewhere, I won't mention names, we were told in campaigns that some MPs, when voted in, when they are voted in, and they are driving to their farms, rains are falling, they even close the windows. People, those same electorates will be stopping them to give them a lift, running away from rain, and they will say, you deadened my car. And those are the people we want. Let's vote in for the young people and let's change this nation. I was happy when I saw Uganda Parliament. 90% comrade of the parliamentarians are youths. I think we met the youngest MP was 19 years old in Uganda. Why don't we do the same? But these so-called leaders who call themselves leaders, the selfish leaders, the Northern Rhodesians, when they look at us, they say we have no experience. Kaunda was president at 39 years old. Did he have experience to run the country? But he had great men around him and youths who helped him run this country. We can do the same. I'm appealing to the youths. In fact, if any party adopts a youth, let's rally behind that youth. Put him in parliament, just like what happens in Uganda, and wipe away from parliament these old crooks, and let's run this nation. And it is our country. No one is going to save this country from these people but us. If we don't get involved now, nothing is going to happen. We'll keep complaining every day and night. Things will get from worse or from bad to worse.
No, gentlemen, Zikomo, for making the program. We thank you for the invitation and an opportunity.
Yeah,
time was just running. For people are trying to go in, our time is just running out. This has been Open Chat on TBN, and tonight we featured the National Restoration Party Youth League President, Chairman, Mr. Olson Banda. and Forum for Democracy and Development, FDD spokesperson, Mr. Antonio Mwanza, and we are looking at youth participation in politics. From me, lovely Kayombo, Mr. Matamudutana on the camera, and Chemba Mlenga in transmission. Good night and God bless you all. Bye-bye.